Argonators, I'm gonna give you a head start. This video is critical of Petal. It's not a bad album, but it has its flaws, so here are my first impressions. As always, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this album and your rating out of 5 stars. I'm excited to read your thoughts. I structured this video into 2 parts, starting with more general thoughts on the album, and then we'll take a closer look at a track-by-track breakdown, and make sure to stick till the end for my rating out of 5 stars. You might be surprised. Petal marks Ariana's return to pop music after the wild roller coaster that was Wicked, both professionally and in her personal life. I was so excited for this album as a longtime fan that I pre-ordered a special variant on vinyl, something I rarely do before listening to an album. I'll post a YouTube short of the unboxing when I receive it. All that to say, I had high hopes for this album. Top of mind as I was writing my first impressions is how good Ariana Grande sounds on Petal. No surprise there. It's also very well produced despite being rather tamed in comparison to her previous work. But it's not a flawless album, especially lyrically, when Ariana attempts to address recent drama in her not-so-private life. As with a lot of her previous work, it's hard to dissociate Ariana Grande's personal life from her music. She literally has a song shouting out her exes. I mean, it doesn't get more personal than that. But perhaps with this new album, it's the first time I feel like she's playing to our faces. And before you freak out and click away from this video, please allow me to make my point, because there is artistic merit to her approach, best exemplified by the first single. Hate That I Made You Love Me was made available ahead of the album, and I would be lying if I said I did not feel some discomfort with the lead single when it was first made available, as far as the lyrics and the overall message go. It's hard not to think of the Ethan Slater debacle when she sings I Hate That I Made You Love Me. We are all aware of the effect that their relationship had on real people, and we all knew it would not last. In fact, it's not the first time Ariana Grande appears to hint at this saga in her music. Yes and was widely understood to be a pushback against criticism surrounding her relationship with Ethan Slater, among other public criticism of her at the time. With Yes and, she basically said, I don't care what you think, I'll do what I want. With I Hate That I Made You Love Me, she's admitting some responsibility in the debacle. It's like she's saying, sorry I played with your heart, but is it really my fault? It's the equivalent of saying, I'm sorry your feelings were hurt, instead of a real apology for her actions. It's a bit much, to be honest, but it's also interesting as far as pop artistry goes. Many artists would not dare to go there. In a way, it reminds me of Britney Spears in 2007 with all the tribulation in her personal life when she released Piece of Me, talking about the paparazzi, the media frenzy, her motherhood, and even her trouble in court. It only worked because we were all aware of Britney's personal struggles. I covered this era in this video, by the way. It's one of my favorite uploads on the channel. Ariana Grande does the same thing all the time. She responds to controversies and public pressure with her music, and it only works because of her celebrity. Yes and, much like I Hate That I Made You Love Me, only work because we know about the Ethan Slater drama. Ariana Grande continuously fed this feedback loop over the years, and Petal is no different. It feels like the parasocial relationship between Ariana Grande and the public grows more intense with every release. It's the ultimate pop stardom flex, regardless of what you think of the ethics of her relationship with Ethan Slater, but it comes at the cost of our expectations. If you expected Ariana Grande to take accountability with Petal, you will be disappointed. With this album, she falls short of addressing the ordeal in full honesty, and at times, as we'll see when we take a closer look at some of her lyrics during the track-by-track section of this video, she wants to have it both ways. Petal creates a disconnect between what we know to be true and the way Ariana wants us to perceive her. Now, as far as production goes, I Hate That I Made You Love Me is pretty understated, considering that Max Martin worked on this. But when taken in the context of the album, the first single is not out of place. In fact, most of Petal is pretty understated, with a few exceptions like Bad Thing, Bunny Hop. This isn't an issue. In fact, I think that sonically the album has a nice through line from start to finish, which is something I greatly value. The music is good on Petal, there's no doubt about it. As you may be aware, one of the most common criticism of Ariana Grande's music is often rooted in the idea that a lot of her songs sound the same. Petal won't beat those allegations. As a massive fan of Ariana Grande from her first album to now, I must admit I am getting tired of some production choices, mostly when it comes to the treatment of her vocals. It's a lot of the same types of harmonic layering. It sounds good, but I would like to eventually hear something different. On this album, Ariana Grande rarely does any heavy lifting vocally. Glinda is gone. Instead, she relies on a wide range of tones and the incredible flexibility of her voice to great effect, but it's nothing new. It's clear that Ariana Grande understands the studio. I often think of artists in terms of whether they are vocalists or recording artists because it helps set reasonable expectations. For instance, Britney Spears is the ultimate recording artist in my opinion, whereas Adele is most definitely a vocalist. One is not better than the other in terms of musical output, it's just a different approach to recording music. Well, in my opinion, Ariana Grande is both. On Petal, she continues proving the worth of her voice and production alike. It reminds me of how Mariah Carey utilizes the studio in production to uplift the strength of her vocals, all the while taking into account the limitations of her voice as it ages, most specifically on more recent releases. Like on Caution, for example, Mariah is not trying to convince us that her voice is still what it was in the 90s because it just isn't. And that's fine. Caution uses Mariah's voice, tones, and flexibility to their fullest potential, without ever pushing it beyond her comfort range. Ariana Grande does the same on Petal, which is great, especially following Wicked. As much as I liked Ariana in the movies, vocally, on rare occasions, Wicked pushed her vocals to the very limit. The reason Ariana's catalog sounds so good in concert is because it was written by her for her, but also because she rarely pushes beyond her comfort level. I'm sure songs off of Petal will sound equally good live, but none of this is surprising. In fact, most of this album meets expectations one might have of an Ariana Grande project, both sonically and thematically. For the most part, it's not an album that will shock old and new fans. Petal is not a reinvention album for Ariana Grande. I hope there will be more surprises on the next album. I'm waiting for the unexpected at this point in her career. I'm also looking forward to hearing a more mature album from her. Petal is not that album. Lyrically, it still feels juvenile, talking about boyfriends and breakups the way a teenager would. Ariana is 33, the same age Sade was when she released Love Deluxe. Petal lacks the depth one could expect from a woman in her 30s. Lyrically, it sounds like an album she could have written in her 20s. She never really gets vulnerable on Petal, at least not authentically. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I hope we get progressively deeper artistry from her in the future. Before we dive into my track-by-track breakdown, I want to reiterate how good this album sounds. I have very little to say about the actual quality of the music, except maybe for the fact that after years of releases from Ariana Grande, I yearn for more analog instruments in her production. This is not something I'm only seeking from her, by the way, but also from many artists who've been heavily relying on mostly synth instruments. Surely, Ariana Grande's label has the budget for session musicians. For instance, Big Feelings could use a small string section to breathe a bit of analog life into it. Mariah Carey does that a lot on Caution with strings and electric guitar, among an otherwise synth production. It adds a lot of richness. I'm not saying Ariana Grande should get an orchestral ensemble on the payroll like Celine did. I'm just getting tired of her music sounding like the whole thing was made using Logic Pro, a MIDI keyboard, and a microphone. Alright, now it's time to dive into our track-by-track breakdown. Don't forget to let me know in the comments below which song is your favorite so far. The album opens with Kiss. Sonically, I think this is the perfect opening for this album. The intro features what I would describe as sci-fi synths. It's very grand and fitting for the first track. Just based on the first line of the album, Society Desperate for Remedy, you'd think Petal would be a commentary on the current state of the world, but it is not. Turns out, it's just a throwaway line. This song is really about goodbye kisses. Very rarely on this album does Ariana Grande attempt to look outside herself or give us a perspective on anything else but her relationships. In that sense, the first track is very fitting for this album. The second track is I Hate That I Made You Love Me, but but since we talked extensively about this song early in the video, I'll go right ahead to the third song. With Petal, a pattern starts emerging early with this album. The music is not the problem. In fact, sonically, it's very enjoyable. But some lyrics are really on the nose, especially following I Hate That I Made You Love Me. It's almost as if she's painting her experience as a Greek tragedy. The idea that she has limited agency as far as men falling in love with her is a recurring theme of this album. And that allows her to avoid accountability for her faults in those relationships. For instance, on this song, she sings, "If this is my curse, I let it ride, ride." As if she had no other option but to take pleasure from those men because it's not her fault, they are so obsessed with her. I'm just not buying that angle. It feels like Ariana Grande is afraid of being seen as a promiscuous woman. I'm not saying she is promiscuous or that being promiscuous is bad, but this whole approach does not feel authentic to me. Let me know what you think, I'm curious. Once again, this track is surprisingly understated for Max Martin. I guess in a sense, Martin's production is the most surprising aspect of this album. Also, this is one of the only songs that got me a little bit worried about her voice. Her head voice is weaker than it was prior to Wicked. There are many examples of this online. What's potentially worrying though is how noticeably thinner it is on this song, given it's a studio recording. But to be fair, this could also be a stylistic choice on her part, so no need to worry for now. The fourth song is titled Stay. As far as the music goes, again, it's nice to listen to, but this song perfectly exemplifies my point that Ariana Grande wants to have it both ways. Surely, I cannot be the only one rolling their eyes every time she sings, really just don't want to be temporary. This is the same woman who sings Thank You Next, the same woman who wrote I Hate That I Made You Love Me, the same woman who, let's be honest, home-wrecked a marriage very publicly. Again, this isn't to pass judgment or to lay the sole blame on her. I don't care what Ariana Grande did or didn't do. I care that her art feels authentic. The disconnect between known events, past songs, and this sort of lyric is too great to be taken seriously. There are so many lyrics I find disingenuous on this album. I just wish she took a more transparent approach and embraced the flaws in her character. Her quest to portray herself as a perfect individual gets in the way of more vulnerable and honest lyrics, which is a shame because this album sounds great otherwise. Song number 5 is Oh Well. I think this might be one of my least favorite songs on the album at this moment. Obviously, it's early in this album's life cycle, so things could change, but I'm not connecting with this song as much at this moment. Song number 6 is titled Big Feelings, and here again, I really enjoy the way it sounds. This might be one of my favorite songs as far as music goes, but those lyrics, damn, I'm really at a loss for words. There are allusions to waters throughout the song and lyrics directly talking about her pussy. It's so over the top. She says, "Pussy so wet, a tear fell from his eye." Girl, please, are we supposed to take that seriously on a mid-tempo song about feelings? Some of these lyrics are quite frankly beyond ridiculous. I want more maturity from her at this point in her career. I want more depth. Not that you cannot talk about your sexuality, quite the opposite, but the way she goes about it is just so juvenile. Maybe I'm having the awakening that some Swifties had with the Tortured Poets department. Call me delusional, but I really held Ariana Grande to higher standards. Am I wrong for thinking she was a better lyricist than this? Remember when she used to be compared to Mariah Carey? Well, gone are those days, as far as lyricism goes anyways. The 7th song is titled Freak, and here again, I'm down with the way this sounds. I think the production of her voice is restrained in the best way on this album. Like on here, it sounds like they put an exciter on her vocals, especially when she goes into her higher register, but it's very faint, it's tasteful and not overdone. But the message of her lyrics are all over the place. I would have preferred if she told us one clear storyline throughout the album. Even within this song, she fails to stay coherent. In Freak, she says, "I won't give you your fantasy this time, but also can't imagine life without you." Then Freak transitions into Warning Signs, in which she sings, "You don't deserve me." So which one is it? There's just no through line on this album, to the point where even a singular song is full of contradictions, and it doesn't feel voluntary. Honestly, if you're one of those people who don't listen to lyrics, and I know there are many of you out there, you'll probably give this album 5 stars. I would too. But if lyrics are important to you, then the star count is likely going down at this point. Let me know in the comment section, I'm curious. I will say though, I do love how Freak seamlessly falls into warning signs. As critical as I am with her lyrics, I really enjoy the way this album sounds, and I enjoy her performance a lot. Next up is Like I Do, and I know I'm being harsh with the lyrics, but right off the bat, there's a line that bugs me before the first chorus even hits. She sings, "Keep my heels tall, my ego small, but I'm still grande," as though she hasn't spent the whole album thus far talking about how grown men cry because intercourse with her is so good. In fact, in this very song, she sings, "'Cause no one fucks you like I do." I'm sorry, but it's rich to claim that your ego is small at this point of the album. It's just not believable. You can't have it both ways. This is what I mean when I say Ariana Grande struggles to embrace her flaws, even when they are so obviously apparent to the rest of us. Just because she wants us to think her ego is small doesn't mean we can't see for ourselves that her ego is gigantic. She's one of the biggest pop stars on the planet. Of course her ego is big. You can't spend a whole album talking about how hot you are, then tell us your ego is small. It's just not authentic. Why not just tell us your ego is big? These lyrics cannot be taken at face value because Ariana Grande is too concerned with her image and it hurts her craft. It's funny that we discuss the ego of pop stars in this video because I've been listening all week to Perfectas by Emilia, who is an Argentinian pop diva. I might eventually make a video about her on my Spanish channel. The premise of this album is basically, I'm hot, my ego is big, I'm a pop star, get on with it. All the while being self-deprecating about going to Europe and not being able to pronounce fashion brands she hasn't even heard of. You see the vibe? It's entirely believable because at no point does Emilia try to have it both ways. Next up is Never Get Over Me. As far as the music goes, this might be my ultimate favorite song on this album, early after its release. I also think the lyrics are much more authentic. She basically says how she wants to live something real, then men get obsessed with her, and somehow they become exes and they disappear. This aligns with what we've been noticing in the public eye, but also with her previous work. This is why people liked Thank You Next. The rare times Ariana Grande acknowledges the flaws perceived by her audience, it works because it's honest, but also because it's interesting. Flawless is boring and it's not believable. Never Get Over Me is one song I would have loved to hear some analog instruments being incorporated. Maybe a dry guitar or a small string ensemble. I'm not gonna take points away for this obviously, but it would be nice to breathe a bit of analog life into her future projects. The 11th song is Bad Thing, Bunny Hop. Like I said prior in this video, this is the song that subdued my expectations the most when I first listened to the album. It is exciting to hear Ariana try something a little bit different sonically. As far as lyrics go, this song is not much better than most of the album. Regardless, it stands out on Petal. The final song is titled Nowhere Nobody. I think this is the perfect send-off for this album. It's also very fitting with the overall theme of Petal. There is more honesty in this song, like when she says she's living in the moment and not thinking about tomorrow in her relationships. Before I give my rating out of 5 stars, I'd like to acknowledge constructive criticism I received from a viewer about this series, most specifically about the use of the term review for what are essentially first impressions. I think this is fair criticism and I want to do something about it. Moving forward, I will call these videos first day reviews. To drive the point that my views may evolve over time, I will continue rating albums out of 5 stars because I also plan to make follow-up reviews for some popular entries in this series. For instance, I'd like to do a 100 Days Later review of Confessions 2 and score the album a final time out of 5 stars to illustrate how my views may have evolved. Hopefully, this change helps reframe this series for what it is, an early emotional response to a new album. I'm always very excited to talk about a new album like Petal early in its life cycle, and hopefully you can sense that excitement through the camera. Now for the moment everyone has been waiting for. What is my first day rating of Petal out of 5 stars? Here's how the 5-star system works. 1 star means bad, 2 stars means okay, 3 stars means good, 4 stars means excellent, and 5 stars means outstanding. 5-star albums are rare. Think of Yellow Brick Road, Nana Mouskouri in New York, 21, Deux, Thriller, or Lovers Rock. 5 stars is reserved for that caliber of work. Any album rated 3 stars and up should be considered a positive review. And I don't do half stars. It's either bad, okay, good, excellent, or outstanding. With Petal, Ariana Grande fails to defend or take accountability for her actions, a surprising turn of events given the nature of the album's first single, the slew of highly publicized debacles in her private life, and her well-established habit of responding to criticism with her music. Grande's lack of focus lyrically is the most disappointing aspect of this album and constitutes a failed opportunity to embrace her flaws, show vulnerability, and develop maturity as a writer. Although her lyrics lag behind those of other artists at her age, Petal is a highly enjoyable sonic experience thanks to its top-tier production and Grande's vocal talents. Petal is a good album that ultimately leaves us wanting more. For all the reasons mentioned in this first day review, for the time being, I give Petal 3 stars. Let me know in the comments below if you agree and what rating out of 5 stars you would give. Also, make sure to subscribe for my next first day review. And until then, you might like this video or this video.